In 2025, Kazakhstan initiated 700 criminal cases against citizens of the country who joined the occupying army of the Russian Federation in the war against Ukraine. This was reported by the publication Media Zona, citing joint calculations with the project Farewell to Arms. It is noted that the courts hand down identical sentences both to Wagner PMC mercenaries and to those who signed contracts with the Russian Ministry of Defense. Law enforcement agencies state that from the perspective of Kazakhstan's criminal code, the mercenaries acted with criminal intent by participating in the Russian Federation's war against Ukraine. Media Zona writes that this is a record number of criminal cases. Previously, the number of such cases in Kazakhstan was limited to dozens per year. But in April and July of 2025, the situation changed, with the numbers increasing. According to calculations by Media Zona and the BBC Russian service, nearly 200 citizens of Kazakhstan and natives of the country have died in Russia's war against Ukraine. At the same time, journalists note that officially the authorities of Kazakhstan maintain a fairly neutral position regarding Russia's full-scale military invasion of Ukraine. It is known that the country's president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, has publicly called for peace talks and stated his readiness to act as a mediator. The improvement of relations between the United States and Kazakhstan may also have played a role. In particular, US President Donald Trump invited Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to participate in the G20 summit in Miami in December 2026. He announced this on December 23rd, after telephone talks with the leaders of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. It is also known that Tokayev and Trump discussed Russia's war against Ukraine by phone on December 23rd. At that time, Tokayev emphasized the complexity of resolving the Ukrainian conflict, where the territorial issue plays a dominant role and requires compromises from both sides, taking into account the real situation on the ground according to media reports.
Donald Trump announced that he is inviting Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to participate in the G20 summit in Miami in December 2026. The US president shared this on December 23rd after phone talks with the presidents of the republics Kassym-Jomart Tokayev and Shavkat Mirziyoyev. Trump wrote on his social media,
"Next year, the United States will be hosting the G20 summit, and we will send invitations to both leaders to join us as guests at this very important event, which will take place in Miami."
The American leader described Washington's relations with Astana and Tashkent as excellent. According to information published on the X platform by the press office of the President of Kazakhstan, a significant part of the conversation between Tokayev and Trump was devoted to the war in Ukraine.
During the discussion, there was a substantive exchange of views on the bilateral agenda and key international issues, particularly the situation in Ukraine. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev noted the complexity of resolving the Ukrainian conflict, emphasizing that the territorial issue remains central and requires compromises from all sides, taking into account the realities on the ground.
Astana's statement about the conversation on December 23rd said that Tokayev acknowledged the outstanding leadership qualities of the American president and invited him to Kazakhstan for a state visit. In November, Donald Trump invited the leaders of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan to the White House and organized the Central Asia Summit. At that time, Tokayev called Trump a great statesman sent by the heavens to restore common sense and traditions to U.S. politics. Traditions, he said, that we all share. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko is also in the focus of the United States. As reported by the Wall Street Journal, more than a dozen current and former American and European officials maintain an unofficial channel of communication with the Belarusian president in the U.S., and he has become an integral part of negotiations aimed at ending the war. Washington has already eased restrictions on Belarusian potash fertilizer producers and reached an agreement with Boeing to supply software and spare parts to the state airline Belavia. An additional bonus was the repair of Lukashenko's plane. Moscow lost another ally through its own fault. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev refused to go to Russia after Putin failed to fulfill his promises. Aliyev skipped the CIS leaders' summit in St. Petersburg, citing a busy schedule. This came as a surprise to the Kremlin. Just 2.5 months ago, Vladimir Putin and Ilham Aliyev said that the crisis in their relations had been overcome. At that same meeting, the Russian leader promised to punish those responsible for the crash of the Azal plane last December and to pay compensation to the victims. But in the end, Moscow did neither. Baku no longer believes Moscow's promises, the Azerbaijani press wrote. The decision of Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev not to participate in the informal CIS summit in St. Petersburg became a political move that the expert community unequivocally links to the Kremlin's failure regarding the crash of the Azal civilian plane.